Welcome to the Empowerment Show with Melissa Heisler. Every week, discover new personal choices with practical, inspiring guides. And now, here's Melissa.
Well, happy Tuesday all, and welcome to the Empowerment Show. I'm Melissa Heisler, Empowerment Coach at It's My Life, and it is your life, live it. Today, I am joined by Chrysa Beck, the visionary founder of Bodhi Prem Yoga, and we're going to be talking about empowering your mind and body health through yoga. We are thrilled to be joined by Chrysa Beck tonight, the founder of Bodhi Prem Yoga. She began practicing Hatha yoga at local park districts, continuing education programs, and the Himalayan Yoga and Meditation Center in Illinois. She earned her 200-hour certificate with the Lotus Yoga Center, a registered school with the Yoga Alliance. She is also proud to have been a student of Sarla, or Shirley Walters' last graduating class under the direction of Swami Rama of the Himalayan tradition in 2007. She was initiated in the Himalayan tradition by Pandit Debral in 2006. Chrysa has continued her yoga training by earning her experienced registered yoga teacher certification with Yoga Alliance, authentic Indian yoga teaching certification at the highest level by Yogi Ram, and has been initiated by Yogi Ram in the Siddha Yoga tradition, teaching training at the Himalayan Yoga and Meditation Center and at Sky Yoga certification. So welcome to the show, Chrysa.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're very excited to have you. And I'd like to talk, because tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between maybe our perception of what yoga is and the experience that you have with the yoga tradition. So maybe we can start off a little bit with you sharing your journey of how you discovered and got involved in yoga.
Sure. Yoga for me started when I had hypothyroidism, and I was wanting to get off my medication, and a friend of mine suggested that I begin to start to practice yoga. And I thought, sure. I was quite heavy then, and my body just didn't think it would move that way. But I said, you know what, I trusted this friend, so I decided, what the heck, I'm going to give it a shot. So I decided that, I would begin to practice yoga at a park district. And so that's when my journey began. I started practicing one day a week, and I began to notice changes in my physical body. I remember laying in my bed going, my body feels longer. Is it possible that I could have grown? Now, I'm in my late 20s at this time, and so, again, just beginning to notice physical changes in my body, feeling more limber, feeling the ability to move, and feeling longer, feeling stronger, also feeling more confident. So that was really how my practice began.
How did you notice the confidence? Because I could understand yoga, from what I understand, is a lot of stretching and limbering, and I could understand the feeling longer. Where did the confidence come in?
Well, where the confidence came in was, being heavier and being in the back of the room and having people go, oh my gosh, can this person really do yoga? And when I realized that my body could move, regardless of what size it was. I mean, the goal was to become healthier through part of the yoga practice, but it gave me the confidence to say I can walk in there and I'm able to do the things that I didn't think I could do.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's been some of my experience with yoga too, is to see people at different levels, and that there's some things that one person's really good at and some things that another person's good at, and I don't think body shape or type necessarily dictates it.
I believe that you're correct in that, nor do I believe that age should be a factor for you either. So whether, I've seen young people in their 20s that can't balance, but people who are in their 50s and 60s who most times when they say you get older, you can't balance, are able to do so. So, there is yoga for every person at every age, at every stage in their life. And, interesting when I began teaching was when I began asking people, so why are you here? What are you looking for out of your practice? And, most of the time people do come to yoga for a reason. They come for healing. Sure, there are some that come because I want to be able to move my body, and I'm looking for more of the physical type of exercise. However, I'm finding that the majority of people that come are really looking to heal a part of their body, to heal a part of their mind, to heal a part of their soul.
So the people who are coming for this, I mean, what are some of the things that they come in with when you're talking about their body?
When they're coming in with their body, so there may be something physically that they're not exactly liking about their body. So maybe one area is larger than another, or maybe there's an area where they hold tightness and they know it. So their shoulders are scrunched up, and so what we teach them is how to begin to relax and straighten and to feel comfortable within your own body. The environment that I've created at Bodhi Prem Yoga is one of non-judgment, and it's very important that everybody that comes there feels very safe and secure, and that no one is going to say, oh, look at her, she can do this and I can't, because that doesn't happen there. It's a place where everybody is allowing the class to solely be for themselves. And this is something that I always ask my students, is to make sure that you're focusing entirely on you, because this class is your time. So when you begin to connect with your body and begin to realize where it is that you're holding tension, you begin to create awareness. And when you create awareness, then you're able to change. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big part of a lot of people when they come in and say, yes, I'll get the people that say, I want to lose weight. But most of the time it will be like, I have high blood pressure. I'm really, really stressed out. I can't sleep. I have insomnia. Some of the other things are, they're also coming because, they're having female issues. And I absolutely love teaching prenatal yoga. They come to me, and it's not about physical fitness. This is about them connecting with their baby, and it's about me showing them how to alleviate the discomfort that happens during the body during pregnancy, and to prepare them for birth. So trying to get a little bit more so away from the physical aspect of it, but to incorporate a little bit more of the spiritual aspect of it, and to explain to them the different stages that the baby is going through. So there are many reasons why people begin to start yoga, and I enjoy it when people come to me and they explain to me, this is why I'm here. I have a purpose as to why I'm coming for yoga, why I'm coming for healing.
And when you talk about that healing, you talked a lot about the physical and started to touch on with the prenatal, how that can be spiritual and the bonding between the mother and her child. What other mental or spiritual healing do people knock on your door with? For coming in, most of the time I will ask at the beginning of my class, what would you like to focus on today? And more so now I'm beginning to see my students are saying, I have an intention for my class today. And my intention is that I am centered. My intention is that I have more grounding in my life. So they're coming in with a focus to connect their mind with their body and their breath, realizing that they are able to direct all of those avenues within their own physical body, but also within their mind and within their soul, because everything is all connected. So when they're coming with those types of questions or interests, it only enhances their practice, their spirituality. So let's go back to your journey, because you were one of those people who was looking for healing with your physical issue, and then you were going every week and you were noticing your body improve, you were noticing confidence. How do you make the transition to actually making this your profession to help heal others?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Melissa, because when I started to take my yoga teacher training, I had absolutely, zero time that I was going to begin to teach yoga. I had no desire to teach yoga. I was going for the teacher training for my own knowledge, so that I could begin to understand really what was it that happened to me, and how did I, through the practice of yoga and diet, eliminate the thyroid issue that I had.
So you eliminated completely the thyroid issue?
I have completely eliminated that issue. I have not been on medication for, I'm going to say, probably between 10 and 15 years.
That's amazing.
And I go and get checked just to be sure. But again, I'm in tune with my body, so I will know if something is off. Mm-hmm. But so that was how yoga is able to heal. And there are many other things, whether they're something tiny or small, through the breath practices of how to reduce blood pressure. One of my students told me that, she had an extremely stressful day one time, and she was going for her annual physical, and she has high blood pressure, and she was like, oh, the doctor's just going to really be on me. And so she was doing one of the pranayama, one of the breathing practices that I taught her in the car, which I don't really recommend. However, she did do it, and when she went, her doctor took her blood pressure like 3 times because he couldn't believe that her blood pressure was normal.
Wow.
So there's a lot of power in yoga that people aren't realizing, with physical healing. Many times, unfortunately, now yoga is viewed as physical fitness, and there is a greater, grander benefit to yoga.
And I guess that's what you started to see. You went through the teaching certification for yourself and for your own edification.
Yes.
And through that journey, how did the transition happen for you?
How the transition happened for me was, the little intuitive voice that was telling me that I needed to go in and go to a particular store. Because there was another student that was going to be there. And so she had wanted me to come and practice with her. And so I started practicing with her. And then she asked me, she said, what do you think? Do you want to begin to teach? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. And then all of a sudden I just began to teach. So I had the knowledge behind me, and I knew what it was that I wanted to teach. And so being in the space that I am still in now is where I started teaching. And so through the Himalayan Yoga Meditation Center, I also started to teach a class there. And on their bulletin board, they had an ad that Buffalo Grove Fitness Center was looking for a teacher. And I said, you know what? I want to know what it's like to go and interview for a yoga teacher position. I don't know what that's like. And I said, there's no way they're going to hire me. I have no teaching experience. I just got my certification. And so I went, and I was carefree, didn't have it was like I was just going for an interview. This was just fun. And so then I think it was about 2 or 3 days later, they called me and said, well, we thought that you could have a class on Saturday morning. And I said to them, are you telling me that you're hiring me? And she said, well, yeah, of course. And I thought, oh, no, I'm in big trouble now because I'm going to be teaching at a fitness center, and I don't teach fitness yoga. So I tried for first few classes, and I tried teaching fitness yoga, and come to find out they weren't really enjoying it. And so I changed, and I started teaching the way I perceive yoga to be taught. And the students love it. I have a really great following there, and I now have 4 classes there. And I love teaching there, and I love the students that are there. And they're there for the benefit of feeling better.
And I love how you explained your journey, too, because part of yoga, and you can correct me on this, but is really that awareness that you talked about.
Yeah.
And, the intention that you had for you to follow the energy to meet the first person that you started to practice with, and then have the opportunity to train others or teach others. And then I love the idea of fun. And I talk to my clients about this all the time, too, is that we get stressed out. If we really want a new job, or we don't think we're worthy of a new job, we go in there with all this negative energy and this feeling that we're not going to be good enough, or worried that we're not going to get this thing that we're really passionate about. And instead, you went in there going, oh, this would be kind of cool to experience.
Absolutely. And, more of the story behind yoga, as well as with the Himalayan tradition, which is the tradition that I teach from. I didn't know it, but I was replacing a Himalayan yoga and meditation teacher at the fitness center. So there was a little divine guidance, I believe, that also happened through Swami Rama to get me to go there.
There's always some things moving around in the background.
Yes, absolutely.
And speaking of background, your family has some history.
Yes. Speaking, we're talking about divine guidance as well. My grandmother actually practiced yoga, and I still remember her telling me when I explained to her I was rolling into teacher training. And she said, I had the best yoga teacher in the whole wide world, and I still remember her name. Her name was Shirley. And I said, get out of here. And I said, Grandma, this lady is actually my teacher for my teacher training. And so then my grandmother went on to tell me of how she actually met Swami Rama when he was still alive and did practices with him along with Sarla. So there is that family connection by blood, but also Swami Rama was very big into families and how he would always say he would take care of your children. Well, my grandmother used to babysit for us a lot as my mom worked. So I remember my grandmother being in her leotard at the time then, and she would always be so peaceful. So my connection began very early with Swami Rama, unbeknownst to me, through my grandmother.
Again, just that synchronicity, and it wasn't something, and I love how the story just evolved. It wasn't like you took it from your grandmother and it became a practice. You went through your own journey of healing.
Yes.
To really see the benefit, and then to have your commitment to this practice and to helping others do their practice as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So you touched on a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about what yoga is? How would you define it overall? Because I know when I first heard about it, I thought of it much more of that exercise program versus
yes.
I know that there's much more to it.
Well, yoga is actually a science, which kind of blows my mind because I really don't have much of an interest in science, or so I thought. But yoga is also a lifestyle. So there are many different types, many different components to yoga practice. So as everybody knows, the postures, the asanas, this is just a very, very small portion of what yoga is really all about. There's a lifestyle where we talk about food, and we talk about breathing, and we talk about meditation, and we talk about stillness. There are many, many other components which I'm really hoping that I'm going to begin to teach. I've just been waiting for the correct guidance and the courage, I think, to be able to teach a little bit more of the philosophy of yoga. So with just completing my 500 and waiting for my test results, as we talked about earlier, I think it's going to give me some confidence and some well-needed guidance that I need to be able to share a little bit more about the depth of yoga and the blissfulness and the peacefulness that can occur through your practice. That yoga is not just about bending your body and turning yourself into a pretzel. The yogis would practice yoga, and sometimes they would practice only one asana, and they may do it for years. And this was so that they could sit comfortably in meditation. That's the whole purpose of what yoga was really intended for, so that they could sit and be in the silence and benefit from being able to go into samadhi.
What is samadhi?
So samadhi is the ultimate. It is the ultimate peaceful, blissful state where you physically don't feel that you're in your body anymore. You're in this place of bliss.
And maybe we can talk about this a little bit, because as a life coach, I work with a lot of people on stress, and I do recommend meditation or yoga or different practices. I even bring up solitaire or going for a walk, anything to get us to disengage from our thoughts and be able to get into the present. Mm-hmm. And every time I give it to every one of my clients, and I will say that it's the hardest assignment that I give to each one of them. So what are some ways that maybe you work with some of your clients to be able to get them to unplug from their iPods and their road rage and television work and family to be able to get into that state?
Well, to get into that state is a very high achievement, and I'm not even sure that I've ever been there yet. Maybe once I had a glimpse of it. But however, taking the time first, giving yourself the permission to say, I'm going to take an hour, one time a week. I'm going to take 5 minutes to just sit and observe my breath and see where that takes me. So it's those baby steps that begin to help you to purify the mind, to cleanse the emotions, because, yoga has a huge component to emotional release as well. And I like to teach a great deal from explaining where the tension is in the body and what emotion it is that is stored there. Because I believe that, by tackling or releasing the emotion will help alleviate the disease that potentially can form in your body, physical body. Not only your physical body, but also in your mind. how you begin to create the grooves. Swami Rama used to talk a lot about being stuck in the same groove. So he would say, make a new groove, okay? So don't be in that groove of, I'm hard on myself because I didn't go to yoga for 2 weeks. Well, you know what? Then my students will say this. If they don't come for 2 weeks, I still welcome them as if they had been here just yesterday. Because you know what? You had the courage to come back. You realized what it was that you were missing. So I think that just by being in a place where it's comfortable to say, you know what, there are times that I am going to take a step back, but you know what, I can always come back in, and I know that I'm going to be greeted and welcomed in a space again where I can begin my healing again, because sometimes you have to take a little bit of a break, and that's okay.
No, and I think, and I get into these discussions as well, we have a list of shoulds. I mean, I talked to you before we started this call and went, I haven't seen you in I don't know how long, and I can tell that it's time for me to come back. Mm-hmm. And it could have been I should be going to yoga 3 times a week or once a week or whatever it is. It's what I should do for good health. It's what I should blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes another task on our list.
Yeah.
Versus
instead of a passion, somewhere that you go that you know that when you're not there, you miss it, you feel it.
And passion or lifestyle would be the word that I would think of as well. That these are the things that make your body, mind, spirit feel good. So it's a lifestyle to choose to experience those more, versus thinking of it as something I should do to take care of my body.
Correct.
Correct. I just got the image of, when we take the car to get the oil change. Well, I should do it every 4,000 miles. Well,
yes, and I do teach. There is a joints and glands or a joint freeing series that I do call an oil change for your body, because it's solely for your joints. So there are so many different aspects to yoga, other than, and I love all of the different styles of yoga. Really, I do. They may not be for me, but if they work for you and they get you in there so that you can begin to make some type of a connection to your body, go there, try it, But there are so many different ways to be able to connect to yourself. And you just have to be willing to take that first step to say, you know what, I'm just going to try it. I mean, I love it. I love it that I have men that come to my classes. I love it when husband and wives, mothers and daughters, or fathers and daughters come to my class. There's a bond that happens when they practice yoga together, and it's beautiful. There's a lot of healing that can happen between the two of them, as well as in themselves.
Right, and it's a whole different connection than sitting on the sofa and watching the latest nightly news or something.
Yes, absolutely. And it's all about feeling better. That's one of the intentions that I hold, and all of my students know this, and I ask them even when they're new, is that my intention for them is that they feel better when they leave here than when they came. And they also hold that for themselves. So I begin to teach them that their thoughts are very powerful, so that they need to use them wisely.
Absolutely. And I want to take a little jaunt here,
sure,
talking about thoughts and using it wisely, and about yoga being more of a lifestyle and a passion, versus just something you do in a gym or a studio. And I wanted to talk about your recent story of empowerment regarding your facility, regarding your yoga studio.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sharing this. Not many of my students know, but a handful of them do. Excuse me. When I first took over the space, and I say took over the space, I didn't really, it kind of fell in my lap as a great gift from the universe to have this great space that I do have. And when I went to apply for my business license, they told me that my yoga studios were considered to be a gym. And so I thought, well, I'm not a gym. We don't perspire here. We don't do this. And so anyway, one of my friends told me that I just needed to fit into one of their boxes. So what other boxes are there? Well, there was a box of a school. And I said, well, that's really more what I am, because I teach. I teach people how to connect with their bodies, with their minds, and what else we talked about earlier. And so they accepted that, and they gave me my license for, 4 years, I think it was. And just this past year, I received a certified letter telling me that they had issued my license in error for the last 4 years. And I sat there and I thought, how could this be? What is happening? What is the universe telling me here? Am I not supposed to be here anymore? Because, of course, along with that came a big packet for me to do a variance, and I thought, there's no way I could do this. One, I don't have the time. Next, I don't even really know how. And so I sat with it for a while, and I began searching, and I thought, I'm just throwing my hands up because I'm not fighting City Hall. I don't want to. That's not part of my nature. So one day I'm sitting at teaching, getting ready to teach in Buffalo Grove, and that divine guidance, that intuitive voice came to me and told me to ask one of my students whom I'd forgotten was on the board in Buffalo Grove, and he immediately told me he would help me, and so there was this huge relief for me because I wasn't finding another space. The parking wasn't right. It wasn't facing the right way. It just didn't feel right. It was stressful getting there. So when I had finally surrendered, then my student again came forward and said, I will help you. And so he helped me, and he wrote a letter, and we wrote a letter to the village, and they decided that they needed to review. They needed to review the code. And so they did, and they decided that they would change the text. And so they changed the text and granted all of the businesses along the entire street special use for just about every business. So instead of me hiding and saying, I can't do this anymore and throwing in the towel, something told me I needed to stay there. And so the universe supported me by giving me my wonderful students to assist me.
Yeah, and I think that's such an amazing story because when we're thrown into something, I mean, if any of us received a letter from the government, saying you can no longer do this, immediately we're like, well, we have to fight City Hall, or we're going to be a victim of City Hall, or, oh my gosh, I just lost my business that I've had for 4 years, and we go into that emotional panic.
And I absolutely did. I mean, tears were just streaming, and I thought, how could this be happening? Why are you doing this to me? And instead, the first impression that came to me was that I needed to educate the village as to what really is yoga. And so that's what we did in the letter. And I think it opened their eyes to say, I'm not a gym. I don't have a locker room. We don't have showers. I don't have heavy machinery.
And so you went to a different space.
Exactly.
That same open space that you teach in yoga versus the restricted, attacked space. And you were able to see solutions and ways that you could open discussion that maybe you hadn't seen before.
Once I absolutely surrendered, and I remember sitting in my living room at home just still, on the verge of being in my own depression, sitting in my living room going, oh my gosh, I am not finding a space to go to, and my time is running out. Mm-hmm. And I sat there and I commanded. I said, universe, you need to tell me what it is you want me to do because I don't know anymore, and I'm surrendering this to you. I'm giving it to you. Mm-hmm. So show me. And they did. What was right in front of me, the student has been with me for 4 or 5 years. How could I have not seen that?
Exactly. And that's a whole other subject we could get into with surrender.
Absolutely.
But I truly appreciate you being on today and talking more about yoga and about how it's not just how you can have amazing physical changes and health improvements, but how it's also a practice, an emotional, spiritual practice of yoga, and not necessarily a religion, which we really didn't get into. It's much more.
It's not.
Air quotes if you didn't see those on the radio here, but that it is much more of a lifestyle practice than anything else, and how it can benefit you.
It's a sadhana. That's what we call sadhana, is practice.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being on, Chrysa, and telling us about awareness and intention and how yoga can help us improve our lives. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
Join Melissa Heisler next week right here at The Empowerment Show. Join the conversation at facebook.com/The Empowerment Show or twitter.com/Empowerment Show.